My cousin let her abusive boyfriend babysit her kids, then blamed me when I reported her. So I exposed their lies, got her arrested, and now I'm the one her kids call mom. My older cousin has always tried to take advantage of me. I was 14 and she was 17 when she had her first baby girl, Emma. Every Friday, Lolita would call me asking if I could help babysit. She'd usually be in tears, voice shaking, practically begging, so I always said yes. Every time I went, she'd hand me a chores list that was 4 hours long, and the baby would keep me up all night crying. I knew it was a textbook case of guilt tripping, but I didn't care. I just wanted to help. Until I turned 18, and Lolita got a divorce. She had another baby boy, Jaden, from their last night together on the way. And because I was finally free from academic responsibility, every Friday babysitting turned into every weekend babysitting. After 2 months, I was literally working 40 hours a week, with half my paycheck going to her, and all my free time was spent being a housewife and mother. Before I knew it, her second baby boy was born, and I had moved in, fully committed to raising her children. It was simply too much to handle. So I pulled Lolita aside and told her there couldn't be any more Friday nights at the club. No more shaking her assets for her Instagram story. She nodded dramatically, pretending to agree. But the following Friday, when I got home from work at 1 a.m., she was nowhere to be found. The babies were left alone in the house, locked in the living room with a towel and a bowl of milk. I was going to confront her when she got home, but when she did, she was extremely drunk and staggering everywhere. So the next morning, when she was finally sober, I confronted her. I told her if she did everything like that again, I would not only go no contact, but call CPS. Her eyes flashed with fear, and she started crying. I know I've been irresponsible. Everything's just so much recently. Thank you for being by my side. I told her she could thank me by being a present parent, and she nodded. I breathed a sigh of relief, because the whole time I was bluffing. There's no way I'd let the kids be taken away by CPS to a family that didn't love them, because I knew that if they at least had me, then they'd be okay. However, I soon learned that I was very wrong, because just 2 months later, I told Lolita I was going on a trip with my friends. Nothing crazy, just an overnight stay at a local hotel to celebrate my friend's birthday. She promised to stay at home, so I thought it would be okay. Well, that night I woke up in the hotel room in a cold sweat. There was this heavy feeling in my chest, like someone was pressing down super hard. I knew something was wrong. Very wrong. It was 5 a.m. when I got an Uber home. The first thing I heard were the crying babies. I ran towards them and found them in Lolita's bedroom in separate cots. They each had very small but fresh bruises on their arms. Lolita was nowhere to be found. Tears welled in my eyes. I had no idea when they had last been fed. Luckily, I still had Mark's, her baby daddy, number. In a moment of desperation, I FaceTimed him. "Please fight for custody!" I then proceeded to film the babies, and he told me he was on his way over. Minutes after he arrived, Lolita showed up. And what her baby daddy did next is something I still can't believe I actually saw. I almost called the police, but one thing stopped me. I knew she deserved it. Mark completely lost it. He started screaming at Lolita about the kids, about her parenting, about everything. Lolita screamed back, blaming me for calling him. She said I was overreacting and the bruises were just from the kids playing. The fight got so intense that Emma started crying again and hid behind my legs. I almost called the police, but one thing stopped me. I knew deep down that Lolita deserved to face consequences for once in her life, but the kids didn't deserve to see their parents arrested. So instead, I took the kids to my room while Mark and Lolita continued their shouting match. Later that day, after Mark left, Lolita cornered me in the kitchen. Her eyes were cold and calculating. "You've really done it now," she said. "You think you can turn my ex against me? You think you can take my kids?" Her voice was eerily calm, which scared me more than if she'd been yelling. I told her I just wanted what was best for Emma and Jaden. That's when she smiled. Not a nice smile, but the kind that makes your skin crawl. "We'll see about that," she said before walking away. I should have packed my bags right then. I should have taken the kids and left. But I had no legal right to them, and I was afraid of what would happen if I wasn't there to protect them. So I stayed, walking on eggshells around Lolita, who suddenly started being the perfect mom whenever anyone else was around. A week later, I got a text from Mark saying he was filing for emergency custody of both kids. He asked if I would testify about what I'd seen. I immediately said yes. This was the chance to get Emma and Jaden into a safe home. I started documenting everything, taking pictures of the apartment when Lolita left it a mess, keeping track of how often she was gone, noting any concerning behavior with the kids. I thought I was being careful, but Lolita must have found my notes or checked my phone, because one night, after I put the kids to bed, she sat me down with this fake concerned look on her face. "I'm worried about you," she said. "You've been acting so strange lately, taking pictures of the kids when they're sleeping, writing down everything I do. It's not normal." I tried to explain, but she cut me off. "I think you're obsessed with my children. It's unhealthy. Maybe you should move out for a while, get some help." That's when I realized what she was doing. She was setting me up. If I left, she'd have no one watching the kids. If I stayed, she'd paint me as unstable or worse. I was trapped. The next day, I got a call from a social worker named Barbara. She wanted to meet with me about concerns that had been raised regarding my behavior around Emma and Jaden. Lolita had reported me to CPS, claiming I was the one neglecting and possibly hurting the children. I felt like I was living in some twisted alternate reality. The person who had been exploiting me for years was now trying to frame me as an abuser. And the worst part, I had no proof that it was her, not me, who was responsible for everything. I met with Barbara the next day at a coffee shop near the apartment. She was this stern-looking woman with glasses and a clipboard who kept eyeing me like I was some kind of criminal. I explained everything. How Lolita had been using me for years, how I'd been basically raising her kids while she partied, and how she was now trying to frame me because I'd called Mark about the bruises. Barbara just nodded and took notes, her face completely unreadable. "These are serious allegations on both sides," she said. "We'll be conducting a full investigation." She asked for contact information for anyone who could verify my story. I gave her Riley's number and my boss's info, plus a few other friends who had seen how Lolita treated me over the years. When I got home, Lolita was all smiles in front of the kids, but as soon as they weren't looking, she'd give me these cold stares that sent chills down my spine. That night, after the kids were asleep, she cornered me in the kitchen again. "You know, if they take my kids away, they'll never let you see them again either," she whispered. "Is that what you want? For Emma and Jaden to be separated and put with strangers?" I felt sick to my stomach because she was using my biggest fear against me. I loved those kids like they were my own. The thought of never seeing them again was unbearable, but I couldn't back down now, not when their safety was at stake. "I just want them to be safe," I told her. "With Mark, they would be." She laughed. "Mark? He couldn't even handle being a father when we were together. You think he can raise 2 kids on his own? Please." The next morning, I woke up to find Lolita being super mom. She had made breakfast for the kids, was helping Emma get dressed, and had even cleaned up the living room. I knew it was all for show, but it was working. The kids were happy, and anyone walking in would think she was Mother of the Year. Later that day, I got a call from Mark. He sounded stressed. "Lolita's lawyer contacted mine," he said. "She's claiming you've been mentally unstable and obsessed with the kids. She says you're the one who left those bruises on them." My blood ran cold. "That's insane. I would never hurt them." "I know that," Mark said. "But her lawyer is good. They're painting you as this unstable person who's trying to steal her children because you can't have your own." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Lolita was using everything she knew about me against me. She knew I loved her kids. She knew I'd do anything for them. And now she was twisting that love into something sick and wrong. Mark sighed. "The custody hearing is in 2 weeks. We need evidence that she's the unfit parent, not you." After hanging up, I sat on my bed feeling completely overwhelmed. How was I supposed to prove Lolita was lying? It was her word against mine, and she was their mother. I decided I needed to be smarter about this. If Lolita was going to play dirty, I needed to protect myself. I went out that afternoon and bought a small camera. Nothing fancy, just something I could set up in the living room to record what was really happening when no one else was around. I knew it was a risk. If Lolita found it, she'd use it as proof I was obsessed or spying, but I needed evidence. I set it up on the bookshelf, hidden between some books, angled to capture most of the living room. Then I waited. For the next few days, Lolita kept up her perfect mom act. She was home every night, cooked meals, played with the kids. It was like living with a completely different person. But on the 4th night, she got a text that made her smile. "I'm going out," she announced. "Just for a couple hours. The kids are already asleep, so it's no big deal." Before I could protest, she was out the door. I immediately checked the camera to make sure it was recording. Then I waited up, documenting the time she left and everything that happened while she was gone. Lolita didn't come home until 3 a.m. She was drunk again, stumbling around the apartment, knocking things over. At one point, Jaden started crying, and I watched in horror as she went into his room. I followed quietly and stood in the doorway as she roughly picked him up, shushing him harshly. "Shut up," she hissed. "Mommy's tired." She shook him a little too hard, and I stepped in. "Let me take him," I said, keeping my voice calm despite my racing heart. She glared at me but handed him over. "Always trying to be the hero," she muttered as she staggered to her room. The next morning, I checked the camera footage. It had captured everything. Lolita leaving, coming home drunk, her rough handling of Jaden. I saved the video to my phone and then to a cloud account just to be safe. Then I texted Mark. "I have proof." He came over that afternoon while Lolita was out getting her nails done. I showed him the footage and his face got darker with each passing minute. "This is exactly what we need," he said. "But be careful. If she finds out you're recording her, things could get ugly." He wasn't wrong. I needed to be extra cautious now. I deleted the footage from the camera itself but kept the copies safe. Mark left, and I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in weeks. That hope was short-lived. When Lolita came home, she had someone with her, a tall guy named Thomas who she introduced as her lawyer. He smiled at me, but his eyes were calculating. "I just wanted to stop by and see the living situation for myself," he explained smoothly. "Lolita has expressed concerns about the home environment." I tried to stay calm as he walked around the apartment, making notes on his phone. He asked me a few questions about my relationship with the kids, how long I'd lived there, if I paid rent. I answered honestly, but I could tell he was twisting everything in his mind. Before leaving, he handed me his card. If you ever want to discuss your side of things, give me a call. Sometimes these situations can be resolved without going to court. After they left, I Googled him. Thomas Daniels was a family lawyer known for aggressive tactics in custody cases. Great. Lolita had found herself a shark. The next day, I got another visit from Barbara, the social worker. This time, she wanted to observe me interacting with the kids. I tried to act natural, playing with Emma and helping Jaden practice standing. The whole time, Barbara watched and took notes. I had no idea if I was doing well or digging myself deeper. When she was leaving, Barbara pulled me aside. I should let you know that we've received some concerning photos of bruises on the children that Ms. Carter claims were caused by you. My heart dropped. That's not true. She's the one who... Barbara held up her hand. I'm not making any judgments yet. We're still investigating. But you should know these allegations are very serious. After she left, I felt like the walls were closing in. Lolita was systematically destroying my credibility. I needed more evidence, and fast. That night, I texted Riley and asked if she remembered the night we stayed at the hotel, how I woke up with a bad feeling and left early. She confirmed everything, including the time I left. That would help establish when I discovered the kids alone with bruises. The next morning, I woke up to find Lolita in the kitchen making pancakes with Emma. She was being extra sweet to me, which immediately put me on edge. I've been thinking, she said casually. Maybe we should talk about all this drama with Mark and the custody thing. I'm sure we can work something out between us. I was suspicious, but played along. What did you have in mind? She flipped a pancake before answering. If you tell the court and CPS that you were mistaken about the bruises, that you never saw me neglect the kids, I'll make sure you can still see them after all this is over. I couldn't believe she was trying to bribe me with access to the kids. And if I don't? Her smile disappeared. Then I'll make sure you never see them again. And trust me, with what my lawyer is building against you, you'll be lucky if you're not facing charges. Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. Lolita answered it, instantly switching back to sweet mom mode. It was Barbara again, this time with another social worker named John. They wanted to interview Emma alone. I felt sick as they took Emma into her bedroom and closed the door. What was Lolita coaching her to say? After about 20 minutes, they came out. Emma ran to Lolita for a hug, and Barbara asked to speak with me privately. In the hallway outside the apartment, Barbara's professional demeanor cracked slightly. Emma's story doesn't quite match what either you or Ms. Carter have told us, she said. She mentioned someone called Uncle Charlie who comes over when Mommy goes out. I was confused. Uncle Charlie? I don't know any Charlie. Barbara nodded. That's what concerns me. Emma says he's not nice and sometimes hurts her and Jaden when they're too loud. A chill ran down my spine. Who the hell was Charlie? And how often had he been around the kids without my knowledge? When I went back inside, I asked Lolita about Charlie as casually as I could. She shrugged it off. Just a friend who helps out sometimes when you're at work. Emma has an active imagination. She probably made up the hurting part, but I didn't believe her. That night, after everyone was asleep, I checked my hidden camera footage from the past week. Sure enough, there he was, a skinny guy with tattoos who came over twice when I was at work. The footage showed him yelling at Emma for spilling juice and roughly grabbing Jaden when he cried. I felt sick watching it. I saved this footage too and sent it to Mark right away. We need to get the kids out now, I texted. There's some guy named Charlie who's hurting them when Lolita goes out. Mark called me immediately. I'm going to my lawyer first thing tomorrow. This changes everything. The next day was my day off, so I stayed home with the kids while Lolita went shopping. I was playing with Emma when she suddenly said something that made my blood run cold. Is Uncle Charlie coming today? I don't like him. I kept my voice steady despite my racing heart. Why don't you like him, sweetie? She looked down at her doll. He pinches when I'm too loud, and he calls me stupid. I hugged her tight, fighting back tears. He won't be coming anymore. I promise. That evening, Mark texted me that his lawyer had filed for an emergency custody hearing based on the new evidence. It was scheduled for the following Monday, just 3 days away. I just needed to keep the kids safe until then. But Lolita must have been tipped off because she came home in a rage. She stormed into my room where I was reading to Emma and yanked the book from my hands. What did you tell them about Charlie? She demanded. You've been spying on me, haven't you? Emma started crying, and I tried to stay calm for her sake. Emma, go play with your toys in your room for a minute, okay? Once she was gone, Lolita got in my face. You think you're so smart with your little camera? Yeah, I found it. You're pathetic. My stomach dropped. She'd found the camera, but she didn't know I already had the footage. The kids aren't safe with Charlie around, I said. He hurts them, Lolita. How can you let that happen? She laughed. Charlie pays the bills around here, something you wouldn't understand with your minimum wage job. I was shocked. You're letting him hurt your kids for money? Her eyes narrowed. You don't get to judge me. You're nothing to them. Nothing. I'm their mother. A mother who leaves them alone with an abuser. I shot back. She slapped me hard across the face. I was so stunned I couldn't speak. She'd never hit me before. Get out, she hissed. Get your things and get out of my apartment right now. I shook my head. I'm not leaving the kids with you. Fine, she said, pulling out her phone. Then I'll call the police and tell them you hit me. Who do you think they'll believe? The mother or the obsessed cousin who's been secretly filming children? She had me cornered, and she knew it. If she called the police, she could spin it however she wanted. I needed to be smart about this. Let me at least say goodbye to them, I said, trying to buy time. She rolled her eyes but nodded. I went to Emma's room where she was playing with Jaden. I hugged them both, trying not to cry. I have to go away for a little bit, I told Emma, but I'll see you again soon, I promise. Emma clung to me. Don't go. I want you to stay. It took everything in me to peel her little arms from around my neck. I quickly packed a bag, my mind racing. I couldn't just leave them, but I had no legal right to take them with me. As I was heading for the door, I texted Mark. Lolita kicked me out. She found the camera. The kids aren't safe. He responded immediately. I'm calling my lawyer now. Where are you going? I didn't have an answer. I had some savings, but not enough for a hotel for more than a few nights. As I stood on the sidewalk outside the apartment building, Riley called. Hey, I just got a weird call from some social worker asking about you, she said. What's going on? I broke down and told her everything. Without hesitation, she offered me her couch until things got sorted out. I accepted gratefully and headed to her place, feeling like a complete failure. I'd promised to protect those kids, and now I couldn't even be near them. The next day, I got a call from an unknown number. It was John, the male social worker. We've received some concerning new information, he said. Can you come to the office today? I agreed, and 2 hours later, I was sitting across from both John and Barbara. They looked serious. Ms. Carter has made some alarming claims about your behavior, John began. She says you've been secretly recording the children, that you're obsessed with them, and that you threatened her when she confronted you about it. I took a deep breath. I did have a camera, but it was to document her neglect and the abuse from her boyfriend Charlie. I have the footage saved. I showed them the videos on my phone. Lolita coming home drunk, Charlie yelling at Emma, the state of the apartment when Lolita was gone for hours. Their expressions changed as they watched. Why didn't you bring this to us sooner? Barbara asked. I was afraid, I admitted. Lolita threatened to make sure I never saw the kids again if I said anything. They're like my own children to me. John and Barbara exchanged looks. We need to do another home visit, John said. Immediately, I felt a surge of hope. Maybe they were finally seeing the truth. That afternoon, I got a frantic call from Mark. Lolita's gone, he said. The social workers went to the apartment and no one was there. She's not answering her phone. My heart stopped. What about the kids? I don't know, he said, his voice breaking. I think she took them. I hung up and immediately called Barbara. She confirmed that Lolita wasn't at the apartment when they arrived for their surprise visit. We're treating this as a potential parental abduction, she said. The police have been notified. The next 48 hours were the worst of my life. I couldn't eat or sleep. All I could think about was Emma and Jaden, scared and confused, being dragged who knows where by Lolita. The police took statements from me and Mark, but there wasn't much they could do immediately since Lolita was their legal guardian. Then, on Sunday night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. I know where Lolita took the kids. Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at noon if you want to know too. I showed the text to Mark and Riley. They both thought it was a trap. It could be Lolita trying to get you alone, Riley warned. Or it could be our only chance to find the kids, I countered. We compromised. Mark would come with me to the park, and Riley would wait nearby in her car as backup. The next day, we arrived at the park 20 minutes early and scoped out the meeting spot, a bench near the playground. At exactly noon, a woman approached us. It took me a moment to recognize her as Elizabeth, one of Lolita's friends who I'd met a few times at the apartment. I didn't think you'd actually come, she said, sitting down beside us. Where are they? Mark demanded. Elizabeth looked nervous. Lolita's at her mom's place in Greenville, about 2 hours from here. She called me yesterday asking for money. Why are you telling us this? I asked suspiciously. Elizabeth sighed. Because I saw the bruises on those kids before. I told Lolita to leave Charlie, but she wouldn't listen. Those kids deserve better. She gave us the address and left quickly, looking over her shoulder like she was afraid of being seen with us. Mark and I immediately called Barbara with the information. She told us not to go there ourselves, the police would handle it, but neither of us could just sit and wait. We drove to Greenville with Riley following in her car. The whole way there, I was a nervous wreck, imagining all the worst scenarios. What if Lolita had already moved on? What if Charlie was with them? We arrived at a small rundown house on the outskirts of town. There was a car in the driveway that I recognized as Lolita's mom's. Mark called the police to let them know we'd found the place, and they told us to wait for them to arrive. But then we heard it, a child's scream from inside the house. Without thinking, I jumped out of the car and ran to the door, Mark right behind me. I pounded on the door, yelling Lolita's name. The door swung open, and there stood Lolita's mother, Karen. She looked tired and annoyed. What the hell are you doing here? She demanded. Where are the kids? I pushed past her into the house, calling for Emma and Jaden. Karen tried to block Mark, but he was stronger and followed me in. We found Lolita in the back bedroom, hastily packing a bag. Emma was sitting on the bed crying, and Jaden was in a portable crib, his face red from screaming. Get out! Lolita shouted when she saw us. This is kidnapping! No, what you did was kidnapping, Mark said, his voice steady despite his obvious anger. The police are on their way. I went straight to the kids. Emma threw her arms around me, sobbing. I knew you'd come. I told Mommy you promised. I picked her up while Mark got Jaden from the crib. Lolita lunged at Mark, trying to grab the baby. Give me my son, she screamed. That's when we heard sirens outside. Lolita's face went pale. She looked at her mother, then at the half-packed bag on the bed. For a moment, I thought she might try to run, but then her shoulders slumped in defeat. The police came in with Barbara and another social worker I hadn't met before. They took statements from everyone while keeping Lolita separated from the kids. I sat with Emma and Jaden in the living room, trying to keep them calm amid all the chaos. Barbara came over and knelt in front of us. "The children will be placed in emergency foster care until the court makes a decision," she explained gently. My heart sank. "Can't they stay with Mark? He's their father." "Mr. Davis is only the biological father of Emma," Barbara said. "We're still determining paternity for Jaden. Until the court hearing, they need to be in approved foster care." I looked at the kids, then back at Barbara. "What about me? I've been taking care of them for years." Barbara gave me a sympathetic look. "You're not a licensed foster parent and you have no legal relationship to them. I'm sorry." I felt like I was going to be sick. After everything, the kids were still going to be taken away from everyone they knew and loved. Emma must have sensed my distress because she hugged me tighter. "I don't want to go with strangers," she whispered. That's when Mark walked over, having overheard our conversation. "What if she stays with me?" he suggested to Barbara. "She's been their primary caregiver. The kids trust her, and I have plenty of room at my place." Barbara considered this. "It would be unusual, but not impossible. We'd need to do an emergency home study of your residence, and she would technically be considered your live-in childcare provider, not a foster parent." It wasn't perfect, but it was something. "I'll do it," I said immediately. "Whatever it takes to keep them safe and together." The next few hours were a blur of paperwork and arrangements. Lolita was taken to the police station for questioning about the abduction and potential child endangerment charges. Karen was interviewed as well, since she had helped hide the children. By evening, we had temporary approval for me to stay at Mark's place with the kids while the custody case proceeded. His apartment was quickly inspected and deemed suitable. It was surreal packing up the few things the kids had brought with them and driving to Mark's place, a nice 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood. That night, after the kids were finally asleep in the spare bedroom, Mark and I sat at his kitchen table, exhausted but relieved. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything you've done for them, for fighting for them when I should have been there." I shook my head. "You're here now. That's what matters." The custody hearing was rescheduled for the following week. Lolita was released on bail but ordered to stay away from the children and from Mark's apartment. Her lawyer, Thomas, tried to paint me as an unstable, obsessed person who had manipulated the situation, but the evidence was overwhelming. My videos, Emma's statements to the social workers, Elizabeth's testimony about Charlie, and Lolita's attempt to flee with the kids. The judge granted temporary full custody to Mark for Emma and temporary guardianship of Jaden pending paternity results. Lolita was given supervised visitation rights only, and Charlie was ordered to have no contact with either child. As we left the courthouse, Lolita cornered me in the hallway. Mark had gone ahead with the kids to get the car. "This isn't over," she hissed. "They're my children, not yours, never yours." I looked her in the eye, no longer afraid. "No, they're not mine, but they deserve better than what you've given them, and I'll make sure they get it." She looked like she wanted to hit me again, but a bailiff was watching nearby. Instead, she leaned in close. "You think you've won? Just wait. I always get what I want in the end." I walked away, refusing to let her see how her words affected me, because deep down, I was terrified she was right. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I watched Lolita walk away, her threat hanging in the air between us. My hands were shaking as I made my way to Mark's car where he was buckling the kids into their car seats. Emma smiled when she saw me, completely unaware of the storm still brewing around her. I forced a smile back, not wanting her to see how rattled I was. The next few weeks were surprisingly peaceful. We settled into a routine at Mark's place. I'd get the kids ready in the morning before my shift at work. Mark would take Emma to preschool and Jaden to the daycare near his office, and I'd pick them up in the afternoon. It was almost like we were a normal family. Lolita showed up for her supervised visits like clockwork. She'd bring toys and treats, playing the role of perfect mom for the social worker who monitored the visits. The kids seemed happy to see her, especially Emma, but they never cried when it was time to leave. That spoke volumes. One night after the kids were asleep, Mark showed me the paternity test results that had come in that day. He was indeed Jaden's biological father. I wasn't surprised. Jaden had his eyes and chin. Mark looked relieved, but also worried. "This changes things," he said. "I can file for full custody of both kids now." I nodded, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. If Mark got full custody, where did that leave me? I had no legal claim to the kids. I was just the cousin who helped out. The next morning, I was making breakfast when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I know what you did. Meet me at Westside Coffee at 2 p.m., or everyone else will know too." My heart raced. What was this about? Was it Lolita? I showed the text to Mark when he came into the kitchen. "Don't go," he said immediately. "It's obviously Lolita trying to mess with you," but curiosity got the better of me. I arranged for Riley to watch the kids during my lunch break and went to the coffee shop. I spotted him immediately, Charlie, sitting in the corner with a smug look on his face. My stomach dropped as I approached his table. "What do you want?" I asked, not bothering to sit down. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Have a seat. We need to talk about Lolita." Against my better judgment, I sat. Charlie leaned forward, his voice low. "Lolita told me everything. How you've been obsessed with her kids for years. How you manipulated that social worker. How you planted that that camera to frame her. I almost laughed. That's what she told you? None of that is true. He shrugged. Doesn't matter what's true. What matters is what people believe. He pulled out his phone and showed me a video. It was me, clearly edited from my own hidden camera footage, looking like I was sneaking around the apartment while the kids slept. Where did you get that? I demanded. Lolita found your little camera, remember? She kept the SD card. He smiled. She's going to show this to the judge at the final custody hearing. Show how you're the unstable one. I felt sick. That footage is edited. I have the originals. Your word against hers, and she's their mother. He leaned back. But there's a way out of this. Convince Mark to agree to joint custody, and this video disappears. I stood up. I'm not playing this game. Show whatever you want to the judge. The truth will come out. As I walked away, Charlie called after me. She'll win in the end. She always does. I went straight to Mark's office and told him everything. He called his lawyer immediately, who advised us to report the blackmail attempt to the police and the court. We filed a police report that afternoon. The next day, I got a call from Barbara. We need to talk, she said, her voice serious. Some concerning footage has been sent to our office. My heart sank. Charlie and Lolita had moved fast. I agreed to meet Barbara at the CPS office that afternoon. When I arrived, she showed me the edited video. This doesn't look good, she said. Combined with Ms. Carter's claims about your obsession with the children, this raises red flags. I took a deep breath. That footage is edited. I have the original videos that show the full context. I was documenting Lolita's neglect, not sneaking around. Barbara looked skeptical, but agreed to review my unedited footage. I sent her everything I had saved, including the videos of Charlie yelling at the kids. She promised to look into it and left me feeling slightly more hopeful. That hope was short-lived. When I got home, Mark was pacing the living room, looking furious. Lolita's lawyer filed an emergency motion, he said. They're claiming you're a danger to the kids and shouldn't be allowed around them. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What? Based on that fake video? That and new witness statements about your behavior. He ran his hands through his hair. The hearing is tomorrow morning. If the judge grants it, you'll have to move out immediately. I couldn't believe this was happening. After everything I'd done to protect those kids, I was being painted as the danger. I barely slept that night, terrified of what the morning would bring. The courtroom was cold and intimidating. Lolita sat across the aisle with Thomas and Charlie, looking confident. When the judge entered, everyone fell silent. Thomas presented their case first, showing the edited footage and calling Charlie as a witness. Charlie described seeing me obsessively hovering over the children and acting erratically when Lolita confronted me. It took everything in me not to scream out that he was lying. When it was our turn, Mark's lawyer, Jamie, presented the unedited footage and the police report about Charlie's blackmail attempt. She also called Barbara as a witness, who confirmed that her investigation had found no evidence that I posed any danger to the children. In fact, Barbara testified, the children are thriving in their current living arrangement. Emma, in particular, has shown significant improvement in her emotional well-being. The judge reviewed all the evidence carefully. After what felt like an eternity, she denied Lolita's motion. There is insufficient evidence to suggest that the respondent poses any threat to the minor children, she stated. The current living arrangement will continue until the final custody hearing. I nearly collapsed with relief. As we left the courtroom, Lolita brushed past me. This isn't over, she whispered. She was right. Over the next month, she escalated her campaign against me. She filed complaints with CPS almost weekly, forcing Barbara to make constant visits to check on the kids. She showed up at my workplace, causing such a scene that my manager had to call security. She even contacted my parents, telling them I was mentally unstable and needed help. Through it all, I tried to stay focused on the kids. Emma was doing well in preschool, making friends and learning to write her name. Jaden was walking now, getting into everything. They were happy, and that's what mattered. 2 weeks before the final custody hearing, I was picking Emma up from preschool when her teacher, Ms. Sarah, pulled me aside. I'm a bit concerned, she said quietly. Emma drew this during art time today. She handed me a crayon drawing of what looked like a woman with angry red scribbles all over her face. When I asked who it was, she said it was her mommy when she gets mad. I thanked Ms. Sarah and took the drawing home to show Mark. He immediately called Jamie, who said it could be important evidence for the hearing. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep again. I went to check on the kids and found Emma awake, clutching her stuffed rabbit. What's wrong, sweetie? I asked, sitting on the edge of her bed. Is mommy going to take me away tomorrow? She asked, her voice small. My heart broke. Who told you that? Mommy said at our visit that after tomorrow I'd be living with her again and I wouldn't see you anymore. I hugged her tight. Your daddy and I are doing everything we can to make sure you stay right here where you're safe and happy. She nodded against my shoulder. I want to stay with you and daddy. I held her until she fell asleep, my resolve strengthening. No matter what happened tomorrow, I would fight for these kids with everything I had. The final custody hearing was even more intense than I expected. The courtroom was packed. My parents had come to support me, along with Riley and several other friends. Lolita's side had her mother, Charlie, and a few people I didn't recognize. The testimony went on for hours. Lolita cried on the stand, claiming she'd made mistakes but had completed parenting classes and was ready to be a good mother. Thomas painted a picture of a young mother who had struggled but was now reformed, while I was portrayed as an interloper lover trying to steal her children. When it was my turn to testify, I was terrified. Thomas's cross-examination was brutal. He twisted my words, brought up the edited footage again, and even suggested I had romantic feelings for Mark that motivated my involvement with his children. Through it all, I tried to stay calm and tell the truth. I talked about finding the kids alone with bruises, about Lolita's constant partying, about Charlie's abuse. I showed Emma's drawing and explained what she had told me the night before. The judge asked me directly, "What is your interest in these children? You're not related to Jaden at all, and only a cousin to Emma." I took a deep breath. I love them. I've been taking care of them since Emma was a baby. They're like my own children to me. All I want is for them to be safe and happy. After all the testimony was complete, the judge called for a short recess before making her decision. Those 30 minutes were the longest of my life. Mark and I sat in silence, both too nervous to speak. When the judge returned, the courtroom fell silent. She looked at her notes for a moment before speaking. "This is a complex case with serious allegations on both sides," she began. "The court's primary concern is the welfare of the minor children." She turned to Lolita. "Ms. Carter, while I acknowledge your efforts to improve your parenting skills, the evidence of your past neglect and your association with individuals who have harmed your children is deeply troubling." Then she looked at Mark. "Mr. Davis, you have demonstrated a commitment to providing a stable home for both children, despite your initial absence from their lives." Finally, she turned to me. "And you have shown extraordinary dedication to these children's well-being, often at great personal cost." She shuffled her papers. "It is the finding of this court that primary physical custody of both minor children shall be awarded to their father, Mr. Davis. Ms. Carter shall have supervised visitation twice monthly, contingent upon continued participation in parenting classes and substance abuse counseling." I couldn't believe it. We'd won. The kids were safe, but the judge wasn't finished. Additionally, the court recognizes the unique role that the children's cousin has played in their lives. Therefore, I am granting her status as a de facto parent, with legal rights to participate in decisions regarding the children's education, healthcare, and welfare. I gasped. De facto parent status was rare. It meant I had legal standing in the kids' lives. I wasn't just the cousin who helped out anymore. I had rights. Lolita let out a cry of outrage. "This is ridiculous. She's nothing to them." The judge banged her gavel. "My decision is final. Court is adjourned." Outside the courtroom, Lolita confronted us one last time. "You think you've won? I'll appeal. I'll keep fighting." Mark stepped forward. "Enough, Lolita. It's over. Focus on getting the help you need so you can be part of their lives in a healthy way." She looked like she wanted to argue more, but something in his tone made her stop. For the first time, I saw a flash of uncertainty in her eyes. Without another word, she turned and walked away. That night, we celebrated with pizza and ice cream. Emma was thrilled when we told her she'd be staying with Daddy and me. She didn't fully understand what had happened, just that she was home for good. After the kids were in bed, Mark and I sat on the couch, exhausted, but happy. "So, de facto parent?" he said with a smile. "How does it feel?" I laughed. "Honestly, not that different. I've been parenting them for years." "True," he hesitated. "You know, we should probably talk about the living situation long term. This apartment isn't huge." I nodded, suddenly nervous. "I can look for my own place nearby if that would be better." "Actually," he said slowly, "I was thinking we might look for a bigger place, together. The kids love having you here, and so do I." I stared at him, surprised. "Are you asking me to continue living with you? Like, permanently?" He smiled. "For now, let's just say I'm asking you to help me house hunt. We can figure out the rest as we go." It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Lolita would still be in our lives through her visitation. There would be challenges ahead as we figured out our unconventional family arrangement. But for the first time in years, I felt like we were on solid ground. The next morning, Emma climbed into my bed at dawn, Jaden toddling in behind her. "Can we have pancakes?" she asked, snuggling against me. "Of course," I said, hugging them both. "We can have pancakes every day if you want." She giggled. "Not every day. Sometimes waffles." As I got up to make breakfast, I realized something important. After years of being manipulated and used by Lolita, after all the drama and fear and uncertainty, I'd finally found my place. It wasn't where I expected to be at 20 years old, but it was exactly where I needed to be, with the kids I loved, in a home where we were all safe, together.